Hello everyone, welcome early this morning, and today I'm going to be presenting my video presentation on what the artifact I've chosen for my culture and religion, and it's called the Vietnamese Ao Dai. So to introduce a little bit myself, my name is Calvin Vo, and I'm letting everyone know that I'm Vietnamese, and this presentation, like I said, it's based on the Ao Dai, and it's what it's what Vietnamese people wear, and then what resonates with my culture overall. So the significance of the Ao Dai and the Jade Keychain that's shown in this in these two images is that it served the purpose in my life because my grandmother had worn it as a tradition passed down, and it's been worn for many generations from because many men and women have worn it, and she had passed this she had passed this one down to me when her son had worn it, and then they had first arrived in the U.S. So the J keychain, she had passed this down for me when we had celebrated Vietnamese New Year, and when she had finally found a home, she had worn it in California. So I'm going to be talking about the history and origin of Ao Dai. So through extensive research, what is known about the history of the Ao Dai is that according to the history of Ao Dai is that the Vietnamese national dress by Huyen states that the Ao Dai was officially recognized as the national costume during the reign of Nguyen Vu Vong. He was born around 1739 through 1765, and he was one of the cultural ancient leaders that Vietnamese people had looked up to, and during and that was the only significant time that it was recognized through the historical records because no historical expert didn't know what the original one looked like because originally the shape of the Ao Dai kept on changing throughout many of the periods. Apparently, another thing to know is that was mentioned from the article was that the inscriptions of the Nok Lu copper drum had stated that the most ancient clothing of Vietnamese was a long dress with two different flaps. So as you can see through the image, you can see on the top on the top left hand corner and the right hand corner, you can see how the Ao Dai clothes had looked back then, and then you can see at the bottom of the chart how it had changed over time because you can see an evolutionary state through the modern culture of the dress how it looked back then. So usually when is the perfect time around to wear this type of clothing is usually around Vietnamese New Year, but in in Vietnamese we call it Tet New Year because traditional people would usually wear the Ao Dai on special occasions such as Vietnamese weddings, church, or formal occasions. And the colors that people usually wear would occasionally be blue, purple, brown, and other alternative choices. But usually those would be the colors that people would wear because it would go so well to represent the celebration. The way how men would usually wear an Ao Dai is by snugging the collar and buttoning the left side, and the male tunic falls to the knees and is gently worn with loose pants underneath. So for women, it kind of depends because the Ao Dai has different color shapes, which are a round V or opening, and the female ones would be tight fitting, long that are long silk dresses and that is worn over long pants. So basically, anyone can wear it. Ao Dai. So the representation of the Ao Dai in the keychain is that it has a strong symbolic meaning to them because Vietnamese men and women would always wear them, and Vietnamese people would wear the Ao Dai in international beauty contests, so they represent their patriotism and to promote the Vietnamese culture through through the national audience. Another thing to know is that Vietnamese women who wear them has become the symbol of Vietnamese feminine throughout Vietnamese feminine beauty, and that they are the pride to the Vietnamese people because usually Vietnamese people they would always have dignity and pride towards themselves, and they sometimes would also think that they're the top people in Asian culture, well, throughout our Asian culture, which you would call it. So my personal history with Ao Dais is when it started around when I was 7, 8 years old, and then I was very heavily involved with my Vietnamese tradition because I would always honor my culture by attending lots of Tet New Year's and ceremonies, and had always used to wear and hold onto my favorite keychain when I had walked around and celebrated with my grandmother. Because the way how we had honored our gods and our ancestors is just usually by prayers. It's a custom for many Vietnamese people, because usually many Vietnamese people they would be either Catholic or Buddhist. It just all depends how people are and how they would pray to their own gods. So it just depends on the aspect of the culture and what religion are they. So when it comes to Vietnamese traditions, the thing to know is that Vietnamese families get married between the ages of 18 and 25. What my grandmother has taught me and told me that Vietnamese men who are traditional would usually marry a woman at a young age due to arranged marriage or knowing the person. But in Vietnam, it was different because my grandmother had met my grandfather in some part of the western capital of Vietnam and had married each other at the age of 28, and they took time to to know each other. So basically, my grandmother had taught me a lot about the Vietnamese culture, like such as food, clothing, language, and made me the person I am today because she had told me to pursue my own career, and if it weren't for my grandma giving this advice to me, I wouldn't know much about my culture. And as you can see towards the right hand corner, that's the only picture that I have of my grandmother before she had passed away because my grandmother had passed away in 2019 due to cancer. So I would like to thank everyone who had listened to my presentation and have learned something about the Vietnamese culture and Ao Dais because it's a it's an important aspect to know about the Vietnamese culture and my race and ethnicity because everyone comes from a different background from an Asian culture, but everyone can learn different things about the Vietnamese culture that's different compared to the Hmong, Laos, Cambodian. Some people would say it would, in technicality, it's like the same race, but it's a whole different kind of race, which many Vietnamese people aren't aren't like Buddha aren't like Buddhists as many like Hmong, Hmong and Laos and other certain cultures. But there are some that are like Buddhist, but mostly there are a lot of Vietnamese who are Catholic. So, like I said, I would like to thank everyone for listening to my presentation. And if anyone has any questions about the Vietnamese culture and would like to learn more about it, I wouldn't mind teaching them a few or thing about it. And then, as you can see, like from the left hand corner of the image, you can see a Vietnamese guy wearing an Ao Dai, and then he's representing his culture with a smile. And then you can see on the right hand corner a Vietnamese family celebrating with their family that New Year. So thank you for again for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Here you can see all my works cited page. So if anybody thinks I didn't find my information or anything, I have my works cited page right here, just for everybody to see. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.